Today, we wrap up our first week in the southwestern corner of Puerto Rico. So far, we've been to the hometowns of three of Puerto Rico's most important historical figures. Cabo Rojo, home of Ramón Emeterio Betances, a pivotal Puerto Rican abolitionist, independence leader, and medical doctor, known as the island's father of the nation. Hormigueros, home of Segundo Ruiz Belvis, another abolitionist who helped found the Revolutionary Committee that led to Puerto Rico's independence movement, and Mayagüez, the birthplace of Eugenio María de Hostos, an educator, philosopher, intellectual, lawyer, sociologist, novelist, and Puerto Rican independence advocate known as the Great Citizen of the Americas. Together, they set a bar almost impossible to reach, unless, of course, your name happened to be Lola Rodríguez de Tió, born in the town of San Germán on September 14, 1843. Rodríguez de Tió was one of the best Latin American poets of any gender, a woman's rights advocate way before it was fashionable, an abolitionist, and a supporter of independence for Puerto Rico. Of course, today we're visiting the beautiful town of San Germán, Puerto Rico's second oldest city, founded on September 11, 1570. Our home base was the wonderful I Love Combate Rooms and Suites, located in the beautiful town of Cabo Rojo. I Love Combate Rooms and Suites combines a tourism center, information center, a convenience store, a gift shop, and even an ATM machine, which as far as I could see, was the only one in miles. They also have 8 excellent rooms and suites with the latest technology that allow for self-booking and keyless entry. All you need is a credit card and access to the internet to reserve and stay at I Love Combate Rooms and Suites. Even if you're staying at a different hotel, God forbid, you'll find last-minute items, food, beverages, toiletries, liquors, swimwear, souvenirs, and even tools at I Love Combate Rooms and Suites. Being that it was Thursday and that we'd be heading back to San Juan in the afternoon, we simply collected our belongings, loaded our SUV, and locked our room. That was it. No checkout, no nothing. The system automatically checks you out at a predetermined date and time, invalidates your access code, and that's all. Talk about touchless. From there, it was on to the town of San Germán. There are 3 basic ways to get from I Love Combate Rooms and Suites to the town of San Germán. We chose the fastest one going by the town of Lajas. Take Municipal Road 3301 going east till you get to the corner with Municipal Road 301. Turn left and follow 301 until it intersects with Municipal Road 101. Follow 101 and it'll take you straight into the town of San Germán. When we got to San Germán, we parked at the corner of Calle Esperanza and Calle Estrella, about 2 blocks northwest of the beautiful San Germán de Auxerre parish. San Germán de Auxerre is a historic Roman Catholic parish church that overlooks San Germán's main square. Originally built in 1510, the current Baroque temple has undergone numerous reconstructions and modifications after enduring several earthquakes throughout its lifespan. The church was founded by Alonso Manso, a Castilian priest that became Puerto Rico's first Catholic bishop. Back then, the town was called La Villa de San Germán de Auxerre de Nueva Salamanca. Quite a mouthful when you compare it to today's simpler San Germán. The church was included as a component of the San Germán Historic District and listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 1984. Sadly, it was under reconstruction at the time of our visit. However, the workers conducting the restoration were kind enough to let us in to look around. Even with all the mess and dust flying everywhere, the temple is simply gorgeous. I can only imagine how to look after all the work is finished. As a side note, the altar at San Germán de Auxerre Parish points west. In fact, the entire cluster, including the church, square, and the original City Hall building, is inverted, with the church on the west side of the square and City Hall on the east. For me, this is a head-scratcher, because it wasn't like the builders had any obstacles to work around. Think about it. If San Germán was Puerto Rico's second town, and the church was almost always the first building to go up, then why was it built contrary to Spanish tradition? And just so you know, this whole concept of building the church pointing east and on the east end of the square actually came from Roman times, way before Spain conquered the New World. Across the street, going east, you have the beautiful Francisco Mariano Quiñones Square, the original town square of San Germán. Quiñones was born on February 14, 1830. He was a Puerto Rican politician, abolitionist, historian, and proponent of Puerto Rico's self-determination. He was also the president of Puerto Rico's first cabinet and the first official historian of the island. The square is one of those beautiful places where you can relax, listen to the birds chirp, and enjoy life under one of its many trees. On the east end of the square, you have the town's original City Hall building, which to me looked in perfect conditions. In fact, I flew the drone over the entire cluster, and it looked great from the air as well. Right in front of the square, you have the San Germán Tourism Office, where we learned about many of the attractions that we'll be covering in this video. Our next objective was to get to the Porta Convent, perched upon a hill at the east end of Plaza de los Próceres. That would be Founding Fathers Square in the King's English. Plaza de los Próceres is a long, beautiful square, a couple of 100 yards east of Francisco Mariano Quiñones Square, that's covered with beautiful trees, has benches galore for people watching, and is finished in beautiful red brick pavers. Another notable feature is that the streets surrounding it, as well as many other streets in the older parts of the city, are paved in large stone pebbles. Not pavers, like old San Juan, but pebbles. Sitting at Plaza de los Próceres transports you to a simpler time when life was all about contemplation, enjoying nature, and the company of friends. On the east end of the Plaza de los Próceres, you'll find the beautiful Porta Convent, which in the King's English means Heaven's Gate. The original building was constructed in 1609, but after devastating earthquakes in 1717 and 1737, today's structure was built next to it during the 18th century. This building is actually the oldest church convent in both Puerto Rico and the Western Hemisphere. It's also under government control, specifically under the Institute of Culture, who will allow you to shoot photos but not video. Weird. At first, I was gonna leave altogether and not include the convent interior in the video. But then I realized that nothing moves inside a church anyway. So what's the difference between shooting photos or video? Just another example of our tax dollars at work. Admittance to the convent is $5 per person, and it's open Wednesdays through Sundays from 8 a.m. to 4:20 p.m. There was a time when Puerto Rico was divided into something called partidos. Some would argue that it still is. But today's partidos are actually political parties, whereas the partidos of the past were actually land divisions that comprised several of today's towns. Such was the case of San Germán, that eventually broke up into 23 separate municipios. A little to the east of Porta Convent, along Dr. Santiago Bebe Street, there's a small park called Plaza Ciudad Fundadora de Pueblos, with a map illustrating all the towns that were born from El Partido de San Germán. Of course, history has a way of romanticizing actual historical events. What really happened was that San Germán had a highly educated sector of its population that questioned many governmental actions. This led to repression and the island's central government looking for ways to curtail those local figures. One way of doing it was by breaking the partido apart and depriving it of its farmland, access to the sea, revenue, political power, etc. I guess it's like the saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Today, San Germán sits in the western area of Puerto Rico, surrounded by Maricao, Sabana Grande, Lajas, Cabo Rojo, Hormigueros, and Mayagüez. And of course, the operative word would be surrounded. As we left the small park, we walked several blocks southwest to Domínguez Pharmacy, located at the southeast corner of Calle de la Cruz and Calle Dr. Santiago Bebe. Domínguez Pharmacy is what Puerto Ricans used to call a botica, an artisanal kind of pharmacy where the boticario would actually concoct medicine tailored to each patient's needs, known in English as an apothecary. There we met with Mr. Ramon Vasquez, who gave us a detailed tour of the place. Bear in mind that we just dropped by, no reservations or anything.
These keys we have here are the original ones that opened the pharmacy back in 1877. When I say pharmacy, I mean that we have the license. This is the first licensed pharmacy in San Germán and the second in Puerto Rico. The first was in San Juan in 1863. So why the oil lamp? As soon as the pharmacy opened, there was a pharmacist on duty 24 hours a day. Where the photograph is, in the back, we'll see a little window in a moment. People could knock in the wee hours of the morning, tell him their symptoms, and he would prepare the medicine by the light of the oil lamp because there was no electricity.
Of course, some things never seem to improve, and the island still has electrical woes. But I digress. There are dozens and dozens of glass vessels, mortars, measures, instruments, and other tools of the trade that instantly transport you to more artisanal times when the only thing that came in bottles and jars were the individual ingredients, and the pharmacist had to know how to prepare each medicine. For many people, the pharmacist was actually the go-to person whenever they fell ill. After all, he was right there, 24 hours a day.
Well, people usually listen more to the apothecary than to the doctor because of his experience. And at first, they were reluctant to see doctors. They came to the apothecary to have medicines prepared. And the difference between an apothecary and a pharmacy was that the apothecary would exclusively prepare medicines made on the spot with natural plants. The pharmacy did the same, but they sold whatever they wanted. Pencils, you name it.
In many cases, that hasn't changed much either. People visit their pharmacist whenever they feel ill instead of the doctor. I've done it, haven't you? There's also a collection of syringes that's sure to send chills down your spine, with 6-inch needles that look more like modern-day elephant tranquilizers.
When people saw that, they'd either run, faint, or get better.
Needles were sterilized in hot water for half an hour and used over and over. After a while, they would become dull and they wouldn't pierce the skin. Hence, the pharmacist had to poke the patient's arm, and fainting was common. There's also a collection of early 20th century products that were still around during my youth. So, if you're into medical memorabilia, you'll have the time of your life. As for the building, it's a work of art in itself.
Everything you see here was hand-carved by artisans. Basically, this column, back in its day, could have cost no more than 50 cents. How much would it be worth today? This is pine, and it's never had any termites. The triangular shapes we see above the doors and all the ornaments are Moorish elements. The Arabs brought the concept of the pharmacy to Spain, and Spain brought it to its colonies in America. It's quite interesting. Mexico, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic all have similar pharmacies. This is very interesting. This is a redoma. These redomas were placed where the tall glass panels are in different warm colors: green, yellow, blue, orange, violet, and red. What was their purpose? When the pharmacy was built, it wasn't painted, and the wall was brick. When a sick person came in, they saw the place as sad, gloomy, and lifeless, and they tended to get sicker inside the pharmacy. Seeing that situation, they placed the redomas with the colors I indicated. The person would arrive, see those colors, and feel better.
Even then, scientists understood that there is a psychological component when treating a patient. Vasquez also showed us an original soda pop machine invented in London in 1873. He also told us about the history of cola drinks, how they evolved, and all the ill effects that they have on the human body. I purposefully left that segment out to avoid legal controversies. Of course, you'll get the entire explanation when you visit the museum. Behind the soda pop machine, there's a photograph shot in 1904 depicting the tertulias en la botica, or gatherings at the pharmacy in the King's English. These were San Germán citizens that would gather every evening in the front area of the pharmacy to discuss social, political, or community issues. A far cry from today, where everybody seems to speak from his particular cyber bubble. One thing that caught my eye, though, is that there were no women in the picture. Domínguez Pharmacy closed its doors as a working pharmacy in 1987 after a successful run of 110 years. Later on, it became the museum that we see today. Across the street, on the southwest corner of Calle de la Cruz and Calle Dr. Santiago Bebe, we visited the Museo de Historia de San Germán, or the San Germán History Museum in the King's English. This museum covers the actual history of the town, of course, its institutions, the financial aspects of the town, and its sports legacy, particularly in basketball. It also has a library and an itinerating hall. The museum is chock full of information spanning from the native settlers that were there way before the Spaniards to the bustling city that San Germán is today. Like at Porta, we were allowed to make photographs, but not to shoot video. So this part will be more of a slideshow than an actual movie. After leaving the San Germán History Museum, we walked a couple of blocks to the Casa Museo Aurelio Tió, operated by the San Germán Inter-American University. As is the case with the Pilar de Filló Museum in Mayagüez, that's mainly about her son, Pablo Casals, and not about her, the Casa Museo Aurelio Tió is mostly about his great-aunt Lola and not about him. In fact, the museum is located at Lola's childhood home. So who was Lola, anyhow? Lola's full name was Lola Rodríguez de Tió, and she's considered one of the best Latin American poets of all time, regardless of gender. Lola Rodríguez de Tió was born in San Germán on September 14, 1843, and died in Havana, Cuba on November 10, 1924. Her maiden name was Dolores Rodríguez de Astudillo y Ponce de León. And in case you're wondering, yes, she was a direct descendant of Puerto Rico's first Spanish governor, Juan Ponce de León. In fact, back then, everyone in San Germán referred to her house as La Casa de los Ponce de León. The museum covers every aspect of Lola's life, as well as her husband's Bonocio Tió Segarra. Rodríguez de Tió was a political activist and independence advocate. Her home was a gathering place for politicians and intellectuals, as well as exiled Puerto Ricans. She was well known in Cuba for her patriotic poetry about Puerto Rico and Cuba. Some of Rodríguez de Tió's best-known works are Cuba y Puerto Rico's Son. Cuba and Puerto Rico are in the King's English, and Mi Libro de Cuba, my book about Cuba. She also wrote the lyrics to the revolutionary version of Puerto Rico's national anthem, La Borinqueña. We still had several places to visit as we left the Casa Museo Aurelio Tió. The Ceiba of San Germán, known as the Ceiba of Liberty, is a century-old tree in Puerto Rico planted on February 18, 1898, to commemorate the granting of the Charter of Puerto Rican autonomy by Spain. It marked the key moment in the history of self-government for the island. Sadly, that all vanished when Puerto Rico became a U.S. territory just months later. The tree is considered a unique living monument of this historical event, located on Liberty Hill. I personally drove to this Ceiba under a downpour and was disappointed by what I found. It's an abandoned area next to an empty, dilapidated property where nobody sees it. Next, we drove to the San Germán campus of Inter-American University. This university was actually born in this campus, and it's the third higher learning institution on the island. Due to its Catholic roots, there's supposedly a chapel that's worth seeing, so my wife and I drove around the grounds trying to find it. Minutes later, we ran into security officers who politely showed us the gate. We had two more places to visit, and it was getting late. The first was the San Germán Ramírez de Arellano Museum of Art, where we had heard that there are beautiful paintings, and the other was the old train station on the way out of town. The Ramírez de Arellano Museum of Art is a beautiful colonial building painted in dark blue with white trimmings located at the corner of Calle Esperanza and Calle Sol. Sadly, when we got there, it was 5 minutes to closing time, so all I could do was show you the outside of the building. A little further up Calle Esperanza, there's one of the original train stations belonging to Puerto Rico's early 20th century train system. Sadly, that too was closed. And it isn't a museum either. In fact, it belongs to the LAI, or Liga Atlética Interuniversitaria. In the King's English, that would be the Intercollegiate Athletic League. Like other train stations around the island, it has been restored and repurposed. In any case, I just thought I'd show it to you. It was 4:29 and we were still over 100 miles away from San Juan, so we decided to call it a day. And talking about San Juan, if you're planning to visit the old city, save yourself the hassle of traditional city tours. They're expensive and you'll be herded along with people that won't necessarily share your interests. Instead, order the Old San Juan Walking Tour. It's packed with useful information about all the main attractions, as well as every GPS coordinate and 2 hours of exclusive online video. That way, you'll be able to visit before you visit and hit the ground running when you arrive in the old city. See you next time.